organization of the project, here we'll place the formal and any detailing regarding the concrete only. And on the sections part, we will do the reinforcement. An important aspect is to keep in files only the 3D reinforcement. So in some files we'll only have the 3D rebar, and on another file we'll have the associative views for detailing. This is required especially for big projects, as the program will create some linking between the drawing files, and if the linking is not done accordingly, we have drawings that contain reinforcement architecture elements and also associative views, we can get a lag of the system and the program might run slowly. So this is one solution. Of course, for creating reinforcement, we will need associative views, but after we create them, we either delete them or move them to the detailing drawing. I activated all your architecture or structure. I'll create a section through one of the columns. I can start with any of the columns and then adapt for that particular situation. So I'll create the associative view. Okay. Let's change also the scale to be smaller. And now, in order to do that type of reinforcement, so do you also need the slabs now or later? We can add them later, it's no problem, but
later.
Should I add them?
Okay, no issue.
Okay, so I will just do the reinforcement up until here, and after the column I can show you how we can extend the reinforcement cage. So now one aspect is, in order to do this, but this is another column than the one 9.6 oh no, it's the same. So in order to do this type of interruption of rebar, I will need to reduce the maximum length of the rebar. So in order for the program to impose such a reinforcement, so I'll look at the smallest bar you have here, which is smaller than 2 meters. It's 2.4 meters. I can say 3 meters. So I will input a maximum rebar. Actually, I will input the biggest rebar you have, which will be 300 plus this, 4,600 millimeters. So I'll input this maximum length of the rebar. 4.9. 4.9 will be the maximum for the beginning, because I need the program to have the maximum reinforcement exceeded in order to ask me how to create these segments and how much to do the overlapping. So this is the trick I'm using now. And I will also use another trick to begin from here. You have here a big offset. I think it's 5 centimeters from the ground, or how much is the concrete cover here? I think 5 centimeters. How much?
That is okay. 50 mm, 50.
50, okay. So I will also do this. I'm drawing 2D lines just to make some point for snapping. Now, the way I'm going to create the longitudinal bar is using bar shape. This is a warning that shows you what I've just explained before, not to mix associative views with reinforcing. When we are just creating the reinforcing, it's absolutely no problem. But at the ending of the project, if we keep the associative views in the same drawing with the reinforcement, we can expect some lagging of the program, so it might not run that fast. So freeform, what would be the diameter of the rebar of the column? Is this one? It's 16. Okay. So we can get from here a 16. Which quality? You can choose the quality. It doesn't matter. Okay. 16. Concrete cover 5 centimeters. Okay, 5 centimeters will be from the lower part, but from the other part it will be less, I think, 2 or something. We can move the reinforcement. Okay.
40 mm.
Okay. So I can also say here 4, and I'll just shorten a bit the rebar. So I'm clicking this adapt to edges in order to have a proper offset, and I'm just going with the rebar. In order to keep it straight, I will hold the shift key. And also we need a hook at the beginning, so I'll just click here, hook. Okay, you see something updated. I think we just needed, so what I showed you was correctly. The only thing was it needed an update. You see now that I mentioned hook, I already have the 2.5. So that's the only thing you needed to do. The hook length, however, can be larger. You have here a larger hook, 300. So I'll say here the hook length should be 0.3. You can also change this default value in that setting I've shown you, and the angle is minus 90 degrees. 90 degrees, and I have to re-input the value. So I'm just moving around here. I can hold the shift key in order to make sure that my rebar is perfectly straight, and then I hit escape. Now what you're going to see here is the following. Because I inputted a smaller maximum longitudinal rebar, I have this proposed overlapping. So where we see the blue and the green line, in between we have overlapping. And we can control what happens in each segment of this overlap. Of course, we don't want 3 segments, we want more in order to assure the way you want to detail this rebar. So we have here your proposal, which will be 300 millimeters plus this one. So it will be 4.6 plus 0.3. So first segment will be 4.6 plus 0.3. It was correct. It was the one you needed. The second segment is here. We'll go here. And here we will have a different length, not 4.9, but rather how much you needed here, which is 1.6 plus this one is 4 meters. So I will input here only 4. And the overlapping, you want a bigger overlap of 0.8. So I'll say the overlapping was 0.8. Also for the first rebar, the overlapping should be also 0.8 as you mentioned. So I'm just switching through these segments, and I can, if I shorten a bar, I will automatically get more bars to complete this total length. So this second is 4, and now another segment will be 4 as well. So the third segment is also 4. Okay, I cannot input the last to be 4 as it will shorten, because it was 4 if we had the slab, I think, or something is changed here. So I'll leave the last segment as it is and can extend it further if needed. So it's okay. The first is 4. Let me check again. I think it was 4.9. It was okay. So 4.9. The following is 4 with an overlapping of 80 centimeters. So 4.9, 0 up the overlap. Second is 4 meters, 0.8. and the last as its results. Now I'm going back to the shape tab, and here we can change the shape.
No, it's
What? We should be able to change the position. However, I see it doesn't allow bending type, bending pin, okay. But segment type, I don't understand really why it imposes on default rather than accepting. I will try again with the other segment. Otherwise, I can show you how we can do that joggling of the rebar, but I expected from a setting just to have this option. I'll hit escape on this one because on the other, so this is one rebar, second and third. But on the other side, you have another situation, so you want to avoid doing the overlap in the same cross section. So here we'll have a longer rebar, but this time I will choose a different type of segment so it will do also the joggling. This is 8 meters plus 5.4, 5.7. So I will need another maximum length. So I'll go to the settings. I think it was so 0.3. 5.7. 5.7. And I'll have the same settings, go through here, escape. Now
just hold on, don't escape.
just as you're, yes, sorry, I need to do this first to let the software know somehow. Sorry, tell me what you need. I was in this
May just go ahead. That is not possible right now. You start placing the reinforcement.
Yes.
And you just pick up the top level of the column.
Yes.
And don't escape.
Okay.
Click it once.
Yeah, sure.
Click it, and then you try to change the default segment.
Yes, I see it doesn't work, but I don't know why. It should.
Now you change the default setting.
Yes, but
before leaving when you are in command, then it is possible to change the segment type.
Oh, okay. So again, I'll just go through here. Oh yes, sorry, you're right.
Able to change it.
Yes. Crank, okay. And escape. But although I change it, it says still default. And I don't like this, so I wanted it to crank in between. I'm not so worried, but I have a solution, but I want it from the beginning. I usually just change the shape, but mostly in our country it's not that important. But let me test something. If I do like this, no, it will change also. So if it's shorter, it doesn't really matter. Segment type, crank, bend. Crank, bending pin, okay.
Crank value, you can pick. You can give the crank value.
Can you propose?
16 mm.
How much? 16 millimeter?
25, 0.25.
Point.
Ticking. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, but although it says crank, I don't see the. So we inputted a crank value. There's something, but it doesn't look like the way I need it. We'll change, I think, the rebar for these segments. I can get the partial schema and do this type. I don't understand exactly why it didn't change. I'll have to ask my colleague if this is the way it meant to be, because all that is graphic and is written in the indicates that. Yes.
Don't show in my schema. Just now switch over to the another topic.
Okay, but let me finish first the reinforcing. So 0.3 plus 4.8, so
Okay.
5.4. Okay, the first was correct, as I know it was the maximum, and the other segments are 4 meters again, and the result. So we get here 4 meters, 0.8 the overlap, 4 meters, 0.8, and the last will just result. And I'll have to change the orientation of the hook. Angle minus 90. And now, in the older versions, you had to group these rebars. We have here 6 rebar shapes. Now you have to use another function, the extrude bars along a path. First of all, I would like to make this concrete transparent, if it's okay with you, so we can see the reinforcement. In order to do this, we'll go to change architectural properties, surface, office, and we'll go to materials, exposed concrete, and then change the surface and add around 50% the transparency. And then I will select this building and hit apply. And now we have it as transparent concrete. And now, in order to place these rebars with the new function, so not to use each bar at a time, we'll need to use this extrude bars along a path. We'll select the reinforcement. And we need element for the path. So in this situation, the element for the path will be the edge of the column. I'll just need to, if I am looking like this at the column, I'm looking facing forward, I'll need to click this small edge of the column. And I'll need to specify either the spacing or the number. I think it's will be 0, 1. No, I'll just this is for mostly if we use that point for reinforcement. So in these situations, I will need to place the rebar one at a time. Just a second, I want to try something else. Maybe the edge is too small. If I choose this one, no. So in this situation, they don't want to place the bar on that side. This is mainly used for reinforcing just a random shaped, but based on a point reinforcement. So we have to reinforce this classically after the classic way. So after we just place the bars, we collect one, and if I see the rebar like here is too large, let's see that we need 2 pieces. The concrete was too big, that's one issue. 4. Okay, now we'll start seeing the reinforcement once we place them. We hit escape and then go to the other bar we placed. So we will work more on the first column, but the others can be adapted from this one. So after we do these forms, we will just place them along. It takes a bit of time, but it's only needed to be done once on a column. Then we can adapt for any columns, even if the shape is really different, like this one, because we will just manipulate the longitudinal reinforcement. So this is why I would like to finish the reinforcing example for this. So we need to place also the last bar. And then we'll go with the others as well. We need to do on the 2 edges, and then we will copy, multiplicate, and adapt for the others. And then I'll show how we do the stirrups for everything if you need. Of course, we can use shortcuts to be faster. You know how to define shortcuts in Allplan?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Or one other approach, I usually don't create first the longitudinal, I create the stirrups, because if you create the stirrups, you can place the reinforcement within a stirrup segment, so it's somehow easier just to do 1 click than doing 2 clicks for the placement. And now for the other sides, we can copy and rotate, or let's say we'll do copy and rotate. Okay, but the only problem is if I will pick up the middle and then 1 time, and if I want it to be 90 degrees clockwise, I just say anti-clockwise, it's 90. So copy and rotate. Also, right, this edge, it's easier 1 time. (90°). No, it's copy. Okay, they are in English, so copy, paste, and rotate is the correct function. Just 90° here, and just a mirror here. Okay, and the stirrups, we can create the stirrups. For stirrups, we should think of from the 4 centimeters to subtract the stirrup value. 10 is okay, 10 millimeters.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will be 3, the covering, first stirrup, and then we will place another stirrup to hold the other rebars. In order to place the stirrup inside, I will draw 2D lines in order to make somehow a virtual formwork. Okay, and then I can extend them to cover what I actually need. So that virtual formwork required a different concrete cover, but I will just do this and then use stretch entities to cover here. If I need to be more precise, it's enough just to pick up the schema and then round a bit, but it's 25, it's round enough for rebar. And once I create this placement, I will do this, extrude along a path, select this element, and the element for path will be this column. But I don't understand what this error is about actually. The function is quite new, but I'll just, I don't know, if I placed it traditionally, so I place them normally on a section. And okay, the step is not okay. I can see 0.1.
Okay, so start from the bottom of foundation.
From the bottom, yes. Actually, I'll show you how I do the columns quite fast. So this stirrup placing, I usually take the minimum step of it. So where we have the big shear force or plastic hinges possibility. So I will take this 0.1 spacing. I go from one place to another, and then I start removing where I have the node or where I intersect the beam. I just hit delete and then go to the rebar.
How you have extended the stirrups throughout the length of the height of the column?
How did I do that? Or
Yeah, how you
you have to hold the shift button and click on any stirrup. If you do this, you will see you have parameters for spacing, for changing diameter, and then I just pick up this handle and go upwards. So this is one placing. The moment you start changing steps for the placing, you will get separated placing areas. So after I finish with this small step, I will delete the nodes. So I hit the delete and then filter on the steel grade, hit right click in order to have this sigma, which is a symbol for sum, and I delete where the stirrups where I have intersection with beams. So once I select nodes, I just right click and they are removed, and then I have to settle to solve this issue because I need more stirrups in the where I have big forces, and less where I have, so where I don't have shear force or don't have plastic hinges, I'm not required to use as many stirrups. So one problem would be if you can tell me how much do you use usually? 1/3, or you have some?
in the central region. In the central region, we increase the.
You decrease. You decrease the spacing in the central region.
The central region, we decrease the.
Yes.
Increase the spacing.
You increase the spacing in the central region. That's a bit strange, I think, on the edges, because we have shear forces at the ending. So usually here Let's say we have 0.2. You increase
Yes,
the
that is
distance.
correct. Yes.
Okay, you increase the distance, correct?
Spacing. Yes.
The spacing. So my question for you was, how do you determine where is the central region? You have some rules, I believe, but in
That is the. I have given one sample drawing no, in earlier mail.
another
Uh,
mail, it's no problem.
Typical standard notes.
Yes, here it is. Yes, you have it. No.
Not this one.
You
This
sent
one.
me. I remember also something really nice and properly detailed. There was like some rules for detailing, which was really good.
Yes, that one.
I think I know where I saved them. Yes, ductile detailing. So okay, here. Yes. So we have here lateral ties 70 critical section of column. 75, what is this, the centimeters, or what is this?
75 mm. Distance between the stirrups. Ties.
Okay, so this is 75 millimeters between the ties, the distance, and this area, how big it is the large dimension of the column, minimum. Okay, so this was one of my questions, because now if I need to change the distance of your ties, of all the ties we created, it's something quite easy. We just select this and then go to the properties, and we have the placing, and here I can change the spacing of it. So okay, just 1 second. I should have, I will need only to select the stirrups, so I will use this filter for diameter, and I choose the stirrups. I select only the stirrups, and then when I go to the place bar shape, I can change here the spacing to be 0.075. Okay, without a point, 75. And I change everything, and now I will choose the big, as it says there, minimum 45 or the maximum length, which is 0.6. So if I need 0.6, I will do the following. I will create here an offset of 0.6. So two helping lines that I will also copy for the other situations. And here on the bottom, I think we'll leave constant, as we have big shear forces and the plastic hinge probability is high. So I select here, and then I can say 15 or 0.2. How much do you need? You have here anything?
150.
15 is okay?
150. Okay.
150. Also, you have the possibility of changing the diameter, and by doing so, you will get new marks. So this is one thing you can consider. Changing the diameter is the fastest way of getting new rebar marks for any placing of a bar. You can do this trick for stirrups, but also for longitudinal rebars. But for longitudinal rebars, you can do any of these changes in a section where we see them, where they see them placed. So 0.5 here as well. And that's about the detailing of just one type of stirrup, and then I'll do similar with the second type. I'll go into
But we normally keep the lateral ties at the junction of beam and column. We don't remove it.
you don't remove it, is it okay? Because here
You have already removed it, no?
So you need here also reinforcing.
Keep it the same. 750.
Okay, it's actually no problem if you need to place.
75.
What?
Yeah.
So you need here also, right? This is what you told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but it's it's a problem of concrete here, I believe. Concrete pouring. If there's
We ask to take care of it. Otherwise, codal provision will not be suffice.
okay, but I'm
It
afraid.
is mandatory as per our code.
Okay, I understand. Okay, if you try a clash detection in a node, I think you'll you'll have a lot of context. If we placed 3 beams or 4 beams inside this node, then with all these stirrups, there's no room for concrete. But anyways, that's another discussion.
No, only for beam stirrups will not go. Only column rings will go.
Okay, as you wish. So I could have done this process on 2 types of stirrup at the same time. So I'll only redo the process now for this stirrup, but then I'll show you how we can reinforce the other column automatically with 2 stirrups at the same time. So we don't need to do those tricks. So we don't need to do it twice, the operation.
Okay.
So in order for me to know I'm dealing with another stirrup, I will change the color of it. I use this pencil and change here the color.
Yeah.
And then place this one. I'll use the same polygon. Okay. And if I would like to place them somehow in contact with the other or at a certain distance, in order for me to select the whole placement, okay, one aspect is I can also change the color of it, just like this. Remember, if you hold the shift button when you click on a rebar that is placed, the entire placement is selected. So I shift click here to select the entire placement, and then I can move these stirrups to be placed somehow under the big stirrup or at a certain distance or in contact. It depends on how I expect the drawing to look. So if I'm not interested in the drawing to have more than one line, I will of course hide them. In reality, they won't be placed like this. But if I want a simplified drawing where only one line is for the package of the stirrups, I'll just have to hide them by placing in between. And of course, I have to solve the other issues in order to make sure I don't come in contact with the other stirrups when I'm doing now the selection. I can use a filter. So I will identify the mark. This is mark 8, and then do like this, mark number 8, hit control. So I hold the control to make a multiplied selection, and hold and select in between. So while keeping control, I select the span areas and then go back to properties and change here the spacing. Okay, but there's a problem. It changed all the spacing. So I have to show you another. What? You just select properties. It's if you don't have this button, if, for instance, if you by mistake do this or this, you found it. But remember this: if any of your colleagues does this, for instance, they don't have buttons anymore, you just go to View, Default Configuration, Palette Configuration, and you get everything reloaded. So again, there's one observation here. I cannot change the spacing of some stirrups just by changing in the properties window. because if I'm doing like this, it will change the entire placement. I have to do a small trick. The small trick is moving parts of this big placement in order to obtain separate placements. So I hit the move button, I filter mark number 8, and we select these ones, this ones, and the trick is just to place them at a certain distance. It can be any small distance. If we want to be rigorously, we can pull them back. But once I do this, look what happens. If I shift click on this, I have a separate area here. I can also hold shift and select this one as well. And now and control shift. I have selected two areas, but they are individual, they are not global. So now I go to the placement and change this to another distance, let's say 15. Okay, and this area is independent, so I can also do any fittings that I need. So this was here, if I need 75, I just say 75. 0.75. So this is one trick of exploding, let's say, the placements. You have to do a small move and then you obtain what you need. This is okay. This one was not okay because I accidentally left 100 and not 0.75. Okay, now I would like to show how we do this with more than one stirrup. So for instance, on this type of column, we'll use a simple detail with two closed stirrups. Actually, no, I'm doing something else now, more intelligent than this. They have the same length, and it actually doesn't even matter. What I'm going to do now, I worked a lot to do this first column, but this is the last column I have to create. All the others will be just modification of the first one in terms of reinforcement. So what I'm doing now is copying on the 3D model everything with all its placements in another column, and also change it somehow. In these situations, in this particular situation, I don't need to change it. However, I'll show you how I can adapt this to another piece of column. So I need now to copy and rotate it. So I'll copy here and hit 90 degrees. So you see here everything is settled, and it has the same spacing areas as the first. We can see nodes, intermediate, everything is done. And I want to show you how we can do this trick on this one, which is rather different. So we'll just hit copy, and let's see, this is just a big column. Okay, copy, and I can use actually this big one, it's no problem. I'll go here, and here I will have to adapt it to the edges. So because I like the placing of it, but I don't like the fact that it's bigger than the column. So how I'll do this is I'll go to the basic and use this offset polyline in order to create, let's say, a concrete cover. So I see number 1, 003 will be the offset left. So this will be a construction, helping construction in 2D, just to let me adjust the column, because Allplan 2017 has this strong function. It was also present in 2016, but for any other version you couldn't do this. And the trick is, if you take a placed reinforcement and start changing it, only what you're working on changes and gets a new rebar. You see that this one is not affected. So I use that same stirrup. Once I change it, it will automatically get a new rebar. So this helps a lot in productivity, as it's we only have to do the exact placement once and then just change. If any particular beams it's just in one situation, we just do this parametric change. So
how fast you have reduced from rectangular to bigger rectangular to smaller rectangular?
well, I could have used also the bars. It's quite fast. Actually, what I do is when I'm first doing the formwork for a project, and I identify which columns are the same as reinforcement, and to know how many types of carcasses I have to use. The adaptation is quite fast, and I'll show you by creating another reinforcement for this column based on the first one. So I'll also copy these rebars. You can see here how fast we can adapt. So I only copied 2 rebars here in this bigger column, and I want more than 2, I want 4. I just extend this area up until here. Just a second. I'll use this one, this option, stretch entities. So I stretch the placement up until here. And then what I'm going to do is select these 2 rebars, go to the properties, bar place shape, and I'll change the number to 4. So this way I am adapting all the segments I've created. Okay, but to begin with, I didn't select everything I needed, so I'll do again the operation. So I'll say copy, and I will do this type of selection. So from the left to the right, you can select everything that is fully included in this selection window. So now I'm getting the rebars here. I am stretching so the placement distance is big enough to fit within this area. And now I'm just going to change. So I select these, and you can see we have 3 types of bars. So we have 3 placement of bars. I go to properties, bar shape, and go for 4 pieces or 3 pieces. They will adapt vertically, and then mirror them, and then copy, paste, and mirror again. This function, copy, paste, mirror, with a filter per diameter 16. And a 90 degrees rotation. Of course, I have extra bars, it's no problem deleting them. Actually, I'll undo rather than just copy the middle ones, as I might select also the others, so I don't want to risk of deleting bars that I need. 90. And now I will adapt it to here. So again, copy. Okay, but for here it's not that relevant. Let's find another. The circular, we will do it separately. I can adapt it just to show you that it works. On the other, it was enough just to rotate one carcass, and it would have been easier. But just to keep this exercise alive, so I do this, and then I use the same trick with the offset with the concrete cover. And then I remove vertical or longitudinal reinforcement that I do not need, and then stretch this one. And do other small modifications, just do some moving of the rebar.
Can you just explain the offset polyline command?
Yes, it's quite an easy command. So this is actually for 2D. you can have a number of parallel lines at a certain distance. So for instance, I can do this 3 parallel lines. One it will be at the distance of 0, 1. The other will be 0, 3. And the last will be 1 meter. So now if I'm drawing this, I get 3 parallels. First is the first distance, the other is the accumulated distance. So this is useful for drawing in 2D offsetted lines.
Yeah.
It's
So what we are using here?
I am using here to impose the concrete. So in this particular situation, I'll use it again. I want to know where the stirrup or tie should end. So if I want the tie to be extended up until the concrete cover, I'm using one offset polyline. So I mentioned I need only 1 parallel lines, and here I mentioned the concrete distance, the concrete cover of 3 centimeters, and I'm going to this area. And also, if I continue again, I can choose the side. The offset can be on the left or on the right side, and I can adapt the curves, so I know exactly the cage where it should go. Be careful when doing the stretch entities. It's really important that you use filters in order not to have surprises. So if I'm using filters, I'm selecting only the reinforcing, so not the formwork to change something unless I want to. And of course here we can do a copy. I can move it a bit and then mirror it on 2 sides. This is really productive if you save it in the library. So if you create typical reinforcement for typical types of columns, you can save it in your own library and use it on any project. So if you have new employees or people that are not experienced with all these detailing provisions, it's quite good if you have already reinforced. So you pick up from your own project everything 3D done, and you just import the cages in the new project and adapt to the height of that typical project. You'll get better productivity.
Can we?
Yes? Can we
save this column as a smart part?
No, the smart part doesn't work that way. So smart part is about creating from scratch from code. You have to code everything. I will show you with smart parts how they work and how I create it, but you cannot convert it to smart part. You can convert it only to smart symbol, and smart symbol is just a symbol that replicates. So